Thank you. Good evening. I'm Wolf Blitzer, and it's my honor, and it's a real honor, to welcome all of you to the American Society for Yad Vashem 2022 Gala, The Power of One. Many of you probably know me as the host of the CNN Situation Room, and we've got a situation going on tonight. You probably have seen me on CNN many years over my long career in journalism. What you may not know is that I am the proud son of David and Sesha Blitzer, both Holocaust survivors. I'm also the grandson of 4 grandparents, sadly, none of whom I ever knew because all 4 of them were murdered during the Holocaust. As a result of that, it's of course totally understandable that the American Society for Yad Vashem's mission is a very personal mission, very personal one for me, as I too share a passion for sharing the Holocaust story in the hope of inspiring action in the place of silence and for disseminating accurate information in the place of very dangerous ignorance. Sadly, my wonderful parents are both gone, and as the rest of their survivor generation continues to dwindle, it falls to all of us, the second generation, the third generation, and just as important to those with no direct family ties to the Holocaust, to tell their stories and to keep the torch of remembrance lit. Telling those stories goes to the heart of the American Society for Yad Vashem's mission, to advance the mission of Holocaust education, Holocaust research, Holocaust documentation, and Holocaust commemoration, and to engage caring individuals like all of you to learn about the Holocaust and to keep its memory and lessons alive. Sadly, this is now even more important given the increase in Holocaust denialism and the rising anti-Semitism even in our own country. I'm proud to be here this evening not only to support the American Society for Yad Vashem's mission, but also to salute its leadership. You'd be hard-pressed to find an organization with leadership as committed as this one. You know, when I was a very young boy, I became friends with another little boy whose parents were also rebuilding and starting a new life. That little boy was none other than Lenny Wilf, our guest of honor, together with his lovely wife, Beth. And we will pay special tribute to both Beth and Lenny this evening for their truly remarkable example that they have set through their commitment and dedicated leadership to this mission and to this wonderful organization. We'll have much more on that later. First, a commercial break. No, just joking. But for now, let's get to our program, and it's a wonderful program we have for all of you this evening. First of all, please join me in welcoming the hosts of this very, very special event, board members and gala chairs, Abby and Jeremy Halpern.
Thank you, Wolf. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Power of One, the American Society for Yad Vashem's 2022 Gala. Jeremy and I both proudly sit on the board of the American Society for Yad Vashem, and we have the privilege of serving as chairs at this year's gala. We were blessed to chair last year's virtual gala, which is why tonight we are so grateful and honestly thrilled to be able to celebrate with all of you in person and celebrate the critical work of the American Society for Yad Vashem. I also wanted to extend a very warm welcome to those joining us online. We're so delighted that you've chosen to spend this time with us. Jeremy and I would like to thank tonight's tribute chairs, vice chairs, in particular the honorary chairs, Lenny's family, and all of you who contributed so generously to ensure the success of tonight's event. We are thrilled that together we have raised a record $3 million to continue the ASYV mission and vision.
Our theme is the power of one. We've learned in the Mishnah of Sanhedrin that when you save a single life, it is as if you have saved the entire universe. Tonight we focus on the notion that each person is a world unto themselves, and we celebrate that unique mission of capturing the personal accounts of each individual Jewish hero from the Holocaust. This mission eternalizes the memory of each one of the 6 million Kedoshim by capturing their names, and to the extent possible, their stories of not just how they died, but how they lived.
We've come together tonight to strengthen one another through our shared commitment to Holocaust remembrance and education. And while we celebrate as a community, we will also take the time to shine a spotlight on the individual in appreciation of what each one of us is able to do. That is the power of one. Each individual ensuring the overall success of a mission. Tonight, we have the privilege of honoring and thanking Beth and Lenny Wilf. Who have carried on their family's rich legacy of making Holocaust remembrance a priority in both action and deed. It is from them that we learn just how much of an impact an individual can have. Thank you again for being here, and enjoy the program.
Now, please join us in welcoming Cantor Shira Ginsburg, Senior Cantor at East End Temple in Manhattan, who will lead us in the singing of the National Anthem and the Hatikvah.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Kol hod balevav pinima nefesh Yehudi homia ulfatei mizrach kadima ayin letzion sophia od lovda tikvateinu hatikva שנות אלפיים, להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, בארץ ציון וירושלים, להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, בארץ ציון וירושלים. אמן.
Thank you, Shira. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Adina Burian. Together with Mark Moskowitz, I am co-chair of the American Society for Yad Vashem. What a thrill it is to be here tonight and welcome everyone back to an in-person ASYV Gala. I am delighted to see so many familiar faces, and I thank you all for joining us. For those of you who are joining us online, your participation matters. We are thrilled to have you with us as well.
Good evening. As co-chair, I join Adina in welcoming all of you and thank you for spending this evening with us. We are so fortunate to be celebrating the vibrant outreach and engagement that our organization is known for, including educational efforts in 18 states across the country, a regional presence in the Northeast, Southeast, and West, a dynamic young leadership group with extensive programming, a quarterly produced periodical, and support for the critical mission that we share with Yad Vashem of Holocaust remembrance, education, and research. I'd also like to personally welcome our colleagues from Yad Vashem who are joining us here this evening. Yad Vashem Chairman Dani Dayan, International Relations Director Dr. Chaim Gertner, and Director of the U.S. Desk, Chen Harkov. We also extend a warm welcome to Asaf Zamir, Consul General of Israel, Malcolm Hoenlein, Vice Chair, Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations. Abraham Foxman, Immediate Past National Director, Anti-Defamation League. And Michael Miller, CEO Emeritus, JCRC of New York.
We are also here tonight to pay tribute to Beth and Lenny Wilf, guiding lights and true exemplars of what it means to be dedicated to a cause. 10 years ago, Lenny took over the leadership of the American Society from Eli Zborowski, Zichrono Livracha, and never looked back. With a sense of great purpose and with Beth by his side, Lenny made great strides in expanding the organization in both breadth and depth.
We will get to hear more about Lenny and his accomplishments later in the program. But now, suffice it to say that Adina and I would not be standing here today had it not been for Lenny's vision for the future, his commitment for investing in that future, and his deep sense of passing the torch of remembrance midor ledor, from generation to generation. Every year, the American Society pays respect to those Holocaust survivors who passed away during the year. Here, with a moving tribute to those we recently lost, is Executive Board Member and Development Committee Co-Chair, David Halpern.
Good evening. Once again, we are privileged to pay tribute to our beloved survivors. We remember them, our greatest generation. We remember the hundreds who used to fill this room and even larger venues every year when we gathered to support the sacred mission. And we remember the millions who have dwindled to a precious few. After the miracle of survival, they started new lives and began to tell their stories. They told us of the thriving Jewish life that once existed in Europe. They told us of their torture and humiliation and the pain of seeing their loved ones murdered. But most importantly, they told us exactly what we had to do to prevent another Shoah. Although their stories were not the same, their message was unified and clear. Remember the Holocaust and support the state of Israel. After years of speaking about them at these events, I think it's more appropriate that tonight we speak to them about us. Dear survivors, you will be proud to see that we of the second, third, and even fourth generation are sitting in your chairs, and the room is full. We have heard your message, and we have continued your work. The American Society for Yad Vashem, founded by Eli Zborowski and a dedicated group of survivors, is now chaired and directed by leaders of the second and third generation. Eli chose Lenny Wilf to bridge the transition of leadership, and for 10 years, he has energized our commitment to zealously pursue Holocaust remembrance and education for the entire world. Eli, when you chose Lenny, you chose very well. Dear survivors, you learned through tragic experience that the Jewish people could not exist without a Jewish homeland. You would be gratified to know that the state of Israel, which you fought for and which you helped to build, is now governed and supported by a younger group of leaders, both in Israel and worldwide. But we, who have known you and loved you, face an upcoming challenge. Having never heard your voices directly, how will new generations, a fifth, a sixth, and those beyond, how will they know what you endured? And how will they understand your critical message? Jewish history is recorded in sacred books, but there is no chapter in the Torah that speaks of your suffering and your loss. There is no Passover Haggadah or Purim Megillah that tells your stories. The book of the Holocaust is Yad Vashem and all Holocaust remembrance efforts worldwide. And you, dear survivors, wrote that book so that we and all generations will know what happened and what we must do for our own survival. Your voices, unfortunately, are disappearing year by year, but your words remain strong, and we remember them. We remember the words of Elie Wiesel, the words of Eddie Mossberg, the words of my father, and so many others. Your words have become our words, and we shall speak them. Thank you for giving us the greatest inheritance. We will not squander it. For the sake of our own future, we will always remember.
תהי מנוחתם לכן בעל הרחמים יסתירם בסתר כנפיו לעולמים ויצרור החיים נשמותיהם אדוני הוא נחלתם וינוחו ושלום על משכבה ונאמר אמן.
About a year and a half ago, a new chairman was appointed at Yad Vashem. Dani Dayan, the former consul general of Israel here in New York, was tapped to take over the leadership of this truly critical institution. Here to share more about Yad Vashem and the critical role it plays in commemorating the lives that were wiped out and teaching the world how never to forget is Dani Dayan.
Thank you, Wolf. I was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Therefore, for me, football is the real thing, the one that Maradona and Messi excel in, the one that you actually play with your feet and not with your hands and a helmet on your head. So I understand nothing about the word thing that you call football. But I learned that a few days ago, the USHMM, the United States Holocaust Museum in Washington, honored here in New York Bob Kraft. And we are honoring today Beth and Lenny Wolf. And I learned also that in Thanksgiving, I believe, there is a match between the Vikings and the Patriots. So I want you to know, Lenny, that it's obligatory for every employee of Yad Vashem to root that day for the Vikings. Thank you, Lenny. Thank you, Beth, for your leadership, for what you have done and continue to do for Holocaust remembrance. Your contribution is invaluable. And I think that this event is just a small token of the appreciation that we have for both of you. Thank you so much. On my first day as chairman of Yad Vashem, August 23rd, last year, 2021, I toured the campus of Yad Vashem. And I was taken to our art museum, which by itself is an incredible thing that when the Nazis tried to deprive the Jews from every resemblance of being human beings, there were Jewish artists that continued to make art. On the wall of the museum, I saw an inscription, a quote in Hebrew and in English of the last will and testament of Gala, a Jewish painter. The original was written in Yiddish and hidden in what became known as the Ringenblum archive, the Oneg Shabbat archive, recovered after the war. And Gala writes in August 1st, 1942, and I'm quoting from my memory, she says, "I know I am doomed. I will not survive this tragedy." Indeed, she didn't. She, her husband Israel, her 3-year-old daughter Margalit were killed. And then she writes in her last will, "I bequeath my art, my works of art, to the Jewish museum that will be established after the war." I saw that inscription on the wall of our art museum, and I lost a heartbeat, because I suddenly understood that she was referring to Yad Vashem. She didn't know that it will be called Yad Vashem. Probably she was a staunch Zionist, but probably she couldn't imagine that it will be located in Jerusalem, in the capital of an independent Jewish state. But she meant Yad Vashem. And that inscription, basically that was my first decision as chairman of Yad Vashem. That inscription is in a wall in my office in Yad Vashem. That is the first thing I see every morning when I come to Yad Vashem. That is the last thing I see every evening when I leave my office. And that is for me the source of strength to fulfill our mission. And there are many Holocaust remembrance institutions all over the world. But as the former Polish president Kwaśniewski, Alexander Krawczewski, aptly told me once, I believe that Yad Vashem is the aircraft carrier of Holocaust remembrance, from which other aircrafts, many aircrafts, take off and land, but we set the course, because we are the institution of the victims. We don't care so much about the perpetrators. We don't care so much about the liberating armies, although we are very grateful to them. We are the institution of the survivors and the victims. And unfortunately, but also inevitably, we are approaching the era after 120 to all of them, the post-survivor era. And that will be the happy hour of the denialists and the distortionists. And our mission will become even more difficult, even more challenging, but much more important. Yad Vashem, my predecessors in the position of chairman of Yad Vashem, made amazing things in Har HaZikaron, in the Mount of Remembrance. We have to redouble what they did. We have to invest even much more imagination, much more effort, much more resources, because we are approaching the era in which we will be the witnesses. We have to do it in Israel. We have to do it all over the world, and we intend to do it. We are in the stage of finalizing a new strategic plan for Yad Vashem that will redouble, or more than that, our presence both in Israel and all over the world. The American Society for Yad Vashem, the late Eli Zvorowski and Lenny, Ibadel Chaim Arukim, Adina, Mark, and all of you have been vital in contributing to Yad Vashem's efforts to never let the world forget the horrors of the Shoah. We count on you also for the future. We will need you even more than ever, because when we say never again is now. Thank you so much.
The aim of Yad Vashem is to make the story of the Holocaust accessible to people. People cannot approach the Holocaust simply through facts. We need to think about what this meant to human beings. Only then do we begin to approach it.
שלום, אחי הקטן.
שלום. אבא שלנו היה דמות של גיבור, אבל כל נושא השואה היה עבורנו טראומטי מאוד. בבית שבו גדלנו לא דיברנו מילה.
מה שתשמעו היום גם לא שמעתם אף פעם.
Leo Cohen was born in Lübeck in 1913. In 1932, sensing the winds of change in Germany, Leo's father, Willy, decides to move to Paris. Leo joins the Éclaireurs Israélites de France, EIF, the French Jewish Scouts. He falls in love with the movement. After the family business collapsed, the family moves to Palestine. Leo, who is an adamant Zionist, does not join them because he is committed to his goal to stay with the youth that he leads. Leo really had a way with people. He's very charismatic. He's a storyteller. He does not teach. He inspires.
גדלנו בבית מוזיקלי. אמא שלנו הייתה סולנית של מקהלה, שמי הקים אותה? מי אם לא אחר פאפה לאו.
לוקח את אריאל, שם אותו על איזה פודיום, שינצח יחד כשהוא שר כולם.
ברגע שהוא היה פותח את הקול הנפלא שלו, היה עובר רעד.
הוא קירב את כולם ליהדות, באמצעות השירה. המוזיקה הזאת נותנת לי את ההרגשה שאני עומד לידו. כשאני שומע את הקול שלו מלפני 80 שנה, זה נותן לנו אותו בחזרה, שהוא השאיר אותי
על הפודיום.
על הפודיום, נשאר לי אחר כך כל החיים.
By May 1944, Leo has to make a very difficult decision. He's about to send his family to Switzerland, and he has to decide whether he joins them or whether he guides a group of Jewish youth through the Pyrenees on its way to Palestine.
ההנהגה אמרה, אל תעשה דבר כזה, יש לך אישה ו3 ילדים, תלך איתם.
איזו החלטה בלתי אפשרית.
והוא התעקש שהוא רוצה לתרום את חלקו.
דעתי היא שאין פה בכלל סימן שאלה. מנהיגים גדולים, כך נוהגים.
אני זוכרת את הרגע של הפרידה. הוא שם את 2 הידיים שלו על הראש שלי ואמר, נתראה בארץ ישראל. ואמא בכתה כנראה שכבר חשבה משהו. ואז אריאל אומר, אל תבכי, הוא הבטיח שנתראה בארץ ישראל, זה אני זוכרת.
The family separates, and Rachel and her 3 children go to Switzerland. Leo, a couple of weeks later, leaves for Spain, and he's caught on May 17th in Toulouse.
כל מי שהיה בקבוצה ידע שהוא צריך לברוח מהרציף. והעובדה שהם הצליחו...
כולם להגיע...
לארץ.
כולם להגיע לארץ.
חוץ מאבא שלנו.
He's sent to prison and then to Drancy, to the transit camp. Even when he's sent to camps, he connects to people and he immediately begins to guide them. On July 31st, on the very last transport from Drancy to Auschwitz, Leo is sent, not before leaving his legacy.
המסמך היקר ביותר שיש לי, הוא כתב לי לכבוד יום ההולדת שלי. הוא מסיים את המכתב באביאנטו. להתראות בקרוב, אני מחבק אותך, טון פאפה. הייתה תקופה ארוכה שחשבנו שזה המכתב האחרון.
A few years ago, I came across 2 booklets that inside one of them, a letter from Leo Cohen in a place I didn't expect it to be there. It was really a big surprise for us.
It was inside an envelope. Somebody opened it and tore it, so I had to read it. It's very fulfilling to conserve the document so it will survive for the next generations.
It's especially moving because Leo wrote his last letter a day before he was deported and never came back.
איך אני לא ידעתי?
המכתב הזה הוא מגלה עוצמות נפש כבירות כי הוא יודע למה הוא הולך. והוא אומר לכל האנשים ולקבוצות בחוץ, אל תיפול רוחכם, אל תדאגו לנו, אנחנו נדע לדאוג לעצמנו. הוא מסיים את המכתב כמו שהוא סיים את המכתב אליי.
אביאנטו.
אביאנטו. להתראות בקרוב.
In this place, one constantly proves whether he's really a Jew and a scout, whether he's a human being in the most positive sense of the word.
Yad Vashem aims to delve into challenging questions concerning humanity and trying through these lessons to help us become better human beings.
Such a powerful, powerful and moving documentary indeed. About a year and a half ago, a new chairman was appointed at Yad Vashem, and we introduced them already, Donnie Dayan. It's now time for the highlight of our program, recognizing our guests of honor this evening, Beth and Lenny Wilf. You can applaud. As I mentioned at the beginning of the program, I've known Lenny for more years than I care to enumerate right now, but suffice it to say that I may have the longest standing friendship with Lenny of anyone else in this room. Is that true? Not fake news, right? Our friendship is also a multi-generational friendship. After our respective parents miraculously survived arguably the worst era in human history, they met, they married, and they lived in Augsburg, Germany. That's where our parents became very, very good friends, and actually where both Lenny and I were born just a few days apart, and we, of course, became friends. The friendship that our parents enjoyed contributed certainly to my father's professional success here in America. After settling in the sun and fun capital of the United States, Buffalo, New York, and trying his hand at a few different things, my dad reached out to his good friends, Harry and Joe Wilf, who had, as you know, had become successful. Lenny, for his part, has always been a very hard worker, a family man, and most of all, and I think you'll agree, a true mensch. You know what a mensch is? I'm sure we do. Lenny has never forgotten the lessons that we all learned from our survivor parents, to value life and to never let the world forget what happened. It's admirable how Lenny has stayed so true to that mission and has made it such a pivotal part of his and his children's lives. And of course, Beth has always been beside Lenny every step of the way, sharing the commitment and promise to make Holocaust remembrance a cornerstone of their lives. It is a profound personal honor for me to be here tonight to congratulate both Lenny and Beth for their recognition. The example you have set inspires us all. We salute you, my friends, for your achievements. Now, please turn your attention to this video presentation.
I was born in April of 1947 in Augsburg, Germany. My parents were Holocaust survivors. My father, his brother, and grandparents were deported to Siberia, and they worked in labor camps during the war. My mother's family, there were many relatives, all of whom were murdered at a murder camp named Belgius. The only ones to have survived were my mother and one sister. Everybody else was murdered. I felt it was important for me to know what my heritage was. I was always involved in, obviously, Yad Vashem before my parents' passing. They were one of the founders of the American Society. I'd been to Israel. I felt the connection, but I wanted to know more, and that's when I started asking a lot more questions.
As Holocaust survivors, and they lost many family members, and when they came to the United States, the idea of being a strong family was an important example, and that's how They carried themselves in business and in life to be very close-knit.
His parents were the initial benefactors of Yad Vashem, and the Holocaust remembrance has always been a part of his life. And it was Eli's wish that Lenny would take over. And Lenny is a total mensch, and he's very passionate about Holocaust survivors, giving back, and he's that kind of guy.
Lenny is a visionary leader. He came into leadership at the American Society for Yad Vashem at a very critical time. It was almost a signal with regards to the transitioning of the survivor community to the next generation. And Lenny immediately stepped up.
I think taking over from a survivor like Eli Sborowski was a daunting task, and I commend Lenny for being there, leading us.
Lenny has a special quality, a gravitas that it's hard to find in many people. And I guess that's why Eli Sborowski, who founded the American Society for Yad Vashem, decided that Lenny should be the one to take over. And he taught Lenny directly. Lenny took over with such grace. He always has a lot of intelligence, but he has a way of conducting a meeting that everyone's relaxed. But at the end of the day, after everyone speaks, when Lenny speaks, everyone says, let's do it Lenny's way. And that's a very special quality.
He oversaw a huge transition in the board itself. I mean, in the meetings back in the 90s, the board was a group of survivors, his father and uncle included. And I think if you look at our board today, very much under Lenny, you now see second and third generation of those founding families, as well as others like myself. I think that's a huge accomplishment.
In his vision, he understood very quickly that for Holocaust remembrance and commemoration and education to continue, it needed to have a new look and a new feel. And he brought that enthusiasm to the board and even to Yad Vashem in Jerusalem, with insisting on expanding its educational components, but in particular here in the United States, on focusing on developing a strong young leadership component.
From the standpoint of the Holocaust, he is also a big supporter of education, meaning it should never be forgotten. Once it's forgotten, it can happen again. And that's how he feels about it. And I think that's the right way to look at things. You know, learn from the mistakes and teach the next generation.
Lenny is a people's person, and he always wants to know what you're doing, what you're up to, very caring and warm individual. Beth is the same.
In some ways, Beth is, I guess, the silent partner. She was, I think, always encouraging and was really always rooting for Lenny to succeed. But I don't think he could have done this without Beth, and I think they complemented each other beautifully.
Our mom was also focused on making sure that our dad was able to honor his parents, and I think what really drove him to get more involved with Yad Vashem was his appreciation and admiration and respect for parents, and how he wanted to make sure that their legacy was upheld of not only establishing and creating Yad Vashem, but they were also survivors, making sure to honor that past.
I remember going to Yad Vashem and spending a few days there. We were able to step into that history and understand what it all meant, get to see our grandparents' names on the plaques, and just really more like understand and empathize with everyone's stories.
Not many people see it. My dad was very focused on making sure that his family and the people of Belgium were remembered. The only goal of the Nazis was to kill the people who came there. My dad was, persistent in making sure there was a monument for the people who died there. He always preaches education, education, education. Very inspiring for me to hear that, my dad actually cares about the next generation in general.
His parents were such an extraordinary example, and it made such an imprint on him. And he carries that tradition on of giving back, making sure for his future generations, his children, now his grandchildren, that they have what our parents didn't have, a strong state of Israel, a free America that allows us to have a flourishing life here, and to build on that and give back wherever he can and to make sure that continues.
Very much proud of him, and he went after his parents' footsteps. His father Harry and mother Judith, they were good example for him to do the right thing.
Lenny always led by example. He never asked anyone to do something that he wasn't prepared to do himself. His biggest legacy, I think, was keeping the promise he made to his parents to never forget the Shoah, to always remember those who passed away and were murdered, and to always be committed to Israel.
I'm very optimistic about the future of the American society. Lenny has left us with a very stable and strong organization in the American society. We have a national footprint and a very strong endowment. His passion for Holocaust education and remembrance in the United States is something that I feel we're in an excellent position to further. I think he's been a great mentor for both of us.
Right. Big shoes to fill.
Yes.
Lenny and Beth, mazel tov to you on this wonderful, well-deserved honor. You're great people, and you deserve to have nachas from your family. I wish you all the best.
Lenny and Beth, I'm very proud of you that you really follow your parents' footsteps and you also teaching your own children to do the right thing. And very, very proud.
Congrats to both of you for being fearless leaders in everything that you do. Thank you for inspiring me to continue my education and for always encouraging me to be the best version of myself.
I'd like to congratulate both of you for the amazing work that you've done together. The one thing I just really want to say, besides Zoe coming up in my lap right now, I want to thank you for the support that you've shown me, the same way you've shown Yad Vashem and the things that you've taught me.
Thank you for the privilege of being a partner with you in building the continuity of the Jewish people. Thank you.
Your parents are looking down at you, and they're so proud of you. Mazel tov.
Mazel tov, Beth and Lenny. Mazel tov!
It's been my pleasure to have served, and it's also been my pleasure to step aside and let the new co-chairs handle everything, and they're doing a wonderful job.
Lenny and Beth, on behalf of the American Society for Yad Vashem, we present you with this Lifetime Leadership Award. It reads, "Your visionary guidance, outstanding leadership, and profound commitment to Yad Vashem's sacred mission of Holocaust, education, and commemoration was learned from the previous generation and has now inspired the next generation, ensuring we will never forget."
Okay, the good news is most of my speech you saw in the video. First, I want to thank Wolf Blitzer. It's hard to believe that from two little boys in Augsburg, here we are 70 years later, and we're still doing the same things we did back then. I want to thank my lovely wife, Beth, for working with me all these years and supporting me in my quest to be chairman. I want to thank my children and my two grandsons, and especially Oren and Hallie, who helped with the dinner. I want to thank my fellow trustees, Mark and Adina, and of course our Gala chairs, Abby and Jeremy, and our staff, Stanley Stone, Amy Cooper, Rachel Grossman, Susie Schwartz, and Maya Collin. First, I'm going to give you a couple of my highlights, which you didn't see in the video. The first highlight was when you're chairman, you have one job: get a successor. And I got two able ones, so I'm very proud of that. I also want to mention January 27th, 2016. A lot of you were there. It was at the Israeli Embassy in Washington. We were honoring two Americans who were being inducted, I guess, in the Righteous Among the Nations. There are now only 5 Americans there. But what was special about it for me? There were speakers. There was Chief Rabbi Lau, there was the ambassador, Ron Dermer, there was Steven Spielberg, and there was President Barack Obama, the first American president ever to set foot in the Israeli embassy. Oh, by the way, I spoke too. I want to mention January 20th, 2020, right before COVID. We had the pleasure of being invited by the Israeli government for the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. That was a big thing. We had Vice President Pence there, House Speaker Pelosi, Vladimir Putin. We had now King Charles. We had President Macron. Somehow Beth and I were there. That was a big highlight. And the other highlight, which hasn't happened yet, is April 19th, 2023. It was my idea to create a concert for Sugihara, who those of you who do not know, was the Japanese consul in Lithuania. And he kept writing exit visas for Jews, and he got them out. And it's his anniversary, and a young lady who's a world-renowned cellist, whose husband's father was saved by Sugihara. When I heard the story, I said to Yad Vashem, we're going to support it. And by the way, what I used to do as chairman, you all have to buy tickets. Now, my heritage. Before I get to that, I want to make special mention of Edu. Edu was Eddie Mossberg. We were very close. He knew me my entire life from the day I was born. I'll always love you, and I'll always miss you. But you were special, because you took it upon yourself to teach everybody the lessons of the Holocaust, and especially all the younger generations of the Wilf family. That, to me, was a big thing. I want to talk about my dad. My dad was a survivor, along with his brother and his parents. They lost a sister, I think it was in the Warsaw Ghetto, but they survived. But it was my mother. Everybody in her family was murdered at Belgius, except one sister. It's very interesting. I never really looked at any deep psychological meaning about being a survivor's child. I just lived a great life with them. But one day, I was downtown, and I was walking through the September 11th Memorial. And there was a pond there. And I asked, what is this? Well, this is a dedication. It's called Reflecting Absence. And it hit me. My mother lived her entire life reflecting the absence of her entire family. That is not easy to do. We take all that for granted, but we can never let that happen again. Now, one of my failings, anti-Semitism. It keeps rising up. It keeps bubbling up. My parents told me that anti-Semitism always was there and always will be. It's only the degree. And right now, it's currently manifesting itself. So here's the lesson of the Holocaust for all of you. The lessons of the Holocaust cannot be forgotten, ignored, or disrespected. Thank you for allowing me to continue my family connection to Yad Vashem.
Wow, this is a hard act to follow. Thank you, Lenny, and good evening, everyone. I'm Stanley Stone, the Executive Director of the American Society for Yad Vashem. Almost 30 years ago, soon after Lenny's dad, Harry, of blessed memory, passed away, I had the privilege of working closely with Lenny's uncle, Joe Wilf, of blessed memory, when I served as the Executive Vice President of the Jewish Federation of Central New Jersey. I also had the opportunity to work with both Ziggy and Mark Wilf as they rose up the leadership ranks, assuming their positions as leaders in the Jewish communal world. I always knew there was a Lenny Wilf, but I never actually met him. It took a bit of time to learn that indeed Lenny existed and worked mainly out of the New York office. Well, I am so fortunate now to be able to say that I have worked with Lenny too. True to the Wilf name, Lenny is a smart, dedicated mensch whose drive and passion for the mission of the American society is unrivaled. It has been an honor to work alongside him and a privilege to recognize him and Beth tonight. I'd like to thank the chairs of tonight's gala, Abby and Jeremy Halpern. Thank you for your leadership and your steadfast commitment to our cause. Apples don't fall far from the tree, and it comes as no surprise that the dedication you exhibit has been modeled by your parents. Thank you, David Halpern, for your stirring words this evening and for helping us take note of what we have lost, but also what we have been fortunate to gain. Thank you, Adina and Mark, for being brave enough to step into the big shoes that Lenny left for you. You make it look easy, having stepped into the role without skipping a beat. That's a testament to Lenny's guidance, as well as your talents and abilities. We all look forward to continuing our important work with you at the helm. Thank you, Dani Dayan, for taking time out of your very busy schedule to be with us tonight. I know that you are flying out tonight to Lithuania to attend the world premiere of the Sukahara Symphony, funded, as Lenny said, by the American Society for Yad Vashem. We will be premiering it here in the U.S. in April at Carnegie Hall, so stay tuned for more information about that. Thank you to the talented team at Yad Vashem that produced, together with our team here, the stirring film about Leo Cohn and Yad Vashem's critical work. We are grateful for your partnership. Thank you, Wolf Blitzer. We realize that you may have other places that you could have been this evening, like maybe the Situation Room. And we are deeply honored that you chose to spend your evening here with us. Thank you for your commitment to our shared mission and for the statement made by being here. And thank you to the professional team at the American Society for Yad Vashem. It is truly a joy for me to come to work every day to work with this dedicated group of men and women. So much hard work went into the development and execution of tonight's event, and I know that everyone here joins me in thanking you for your efforts. And lastly, thanks to all of you, for those of you here in the room and those joining us online, for choosing to spend this time with us. Your participation matters. And now, here's Wolf for a final word. Thank you.
Thank you. It's truly been a great honor for me to spend some time with you this evening. Thank you for the opportunity to pay tribute, first of all, to my good friends, the Wilfs, and to support the truly important work of the American Society for Yad Vashem. By the way, I'd also like you to tune in a few weeks' time to the premiere of a conversation I had with Lawrence Burian of the American Society for Yad Vashem, entitled Lessons from Our Parents. I had the opportunity to speak about my own family's Holocaust experience and the valuable lessons I learned from my own dear parents. As we say, Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be a blessing. I say that on my show a lot, may their memories be a blessing. It's a Hebrew expression, as I'm sure most of you know. A similar conversation, by the way, will also be released next week, in which Diane von Furstenberg discusses lessons she learned from her parents. Look out for information about the release of both of these conversations coming soon from the American Society for Yad Vashem. On your way out this evening, by the way, please also help yourself to one of the books that are on display in the reception area. They are yours to keep as a gift from the American Society in appreciation for all that you do. The book tells the story of the building of the Yad Vashem campus, and as the Wilf family funded this project, it seemed a most appropriate memento of this evening. So on behalf of all of us, thank you, thank you, thank you for all you are doing. Once again, congratulations to the Wilf family for all that they have done. We are so, so grateful. And it's true, Lenny and I go way, way, way back. We share a lot of good history. So thank you very much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of this wonderful and important evening.
Thank you.